This is a Tracking the Tropics update with the certified most accurate weather team at First Coast News.
Well, hey everybody, I'm meteorologist Lewis Turner. We're still watching Milton here. I want to get you the latest information. The 11 o'clock numbers are in. Hurricane Center is getting some pretty interesting information in about this storm. So you're looking at the satellite imagery right now. You're seeing the wind speeds at 155 miles an hour. That's a Category 4 hurricane. Category 5 hurricane would be 157 miles an hour. So we're just measly 2 miles an hour off, which I fully anticipate as we get in the next couple of hours, Hurricane Center will have upgraded this storm to a Category 5 storm. So it has a trek to make across the Gulf of Mexico. And one thing you'll note here with our forecast cone, a lot stayed the same. Since our big update came in at 5 a.m., we had another at 8. And then now our big 11 o'clock numbers. The 11 o'clock update is when the Hurricane Center really takes the computer modeling and kind of zeroes in their latest track. And right now that track is awfully similar to the one that was drawn up by the Hurricane Center a little earlier this morning, which is generally a thought that we're going to have a center line track over Tampa. Of course, within that 150 or so miles between what would be Cedar Key on the northern end of the forecast cone or down south of Fort Myers on the southern side of that cone, it is very possible and that a landfall can happen anywhere within that cone. That's how the Hurricane Center draws these up. Now, that does not mean that's the limit of the impacts, correct? So we talk about that a lot. You know, the center line does not draw the extent of the impacts, though. This storm, a little different from Helene, is it's a little more compact, a little tighter than what we experienced with that. Not to directly compare storm to storm, but as we look at our forecast models, I'm just kind of staring off at the graphics with you here on the screen. And as it does strengthen to a 5, Hurricane Center feeling like it's not going to maintain that strength. The guidance is that it will actually weaken to a 3, which is a major hurricane, which is going to provide 100-year level storm surge in the Tampa area if this track holds. Reason being, there's a good bit of shear that this storm will deal with, and perhaps even some drier air that can mix in because of a front that is trying to dip down and actually steer this thing a little bit south of the northern edges of Florida, so our first coast. But there's your landfall, still sticking with that Wednesday night sort of time frame. So Wednesday 8 p.m. here along the first coast, northeast Florida, starting to feel the impacts of this before landfall even on the edges. But this still seems to be lining up for Jacksonville and the surrounding area as a Wednesday night, overnight type of event, something that most of us, the normal sleep time, that we'll be experiencing it. So the best thing to do, best advice I can give you, we will go county by county, by the way, here in just a minute, but with the potential for power outage, with the potential for it to be in the middle of the night, let's have a way to keep things charged, right? So power blocks or have those, the things that you plug in, you charge them up, and then you don't need a power source. You can just have that as the power. You know what I'm talking about. It is the year 2024, right? Okay. And then also have plenty of AA's or whatever batteries your lanterns take or your flashlights, etc. Now, I'm showing you the computer models. This is what the Hurricane Center is using to kind of derive its cone, and you can see the northern edges and the southern edges with that center line still right over Tampa. A couple of models we talk about a lot, the GFS and the European model, the longer range models. So the green is the European model, the purple would be the GFS, and the green being the Euro, a little bit faster, the GFS slowing down just a bit, so a little bit later landfall, a little bit stronger of a storm as well, but both seem to have that Tampa or south sort of track. A more southern track means fewer impacts here as far as the strong impacts along the first coast. That more northern path certainly means stronger impacts. So your Euro model, we begin to feel those a little bit later on Wednesday afternoon, overnight, Wednesday night into Thursday morning, and then by Thursday later in the day into the evening, this thing has since moved out. GFS a little bit slower. As we take a look, we start to feel those impacts Wednesday evening. Strong landfalling hurricane there near Tampa. So this just gives you kind of an idea roughly of timing and of the when we'll begin to feel the first of those rainfall impacts. So we take this moment. I'm going to show you the watches right now, but by all means, fire off any questions you may have. I am going to show you county by county. So if you have a specific to town or county question, cool. I might answer that coming up here in that graphic as we go through each of our areas. But by all means, any questions you may have, fire away, and I'm going to do my best to answer those. But you see the watch. Hurricane watch issued. Basically, that purple or pinkish area is everywhere within the cone, right, of the west coast of Florida that was in the cone is currently in that hurricane watch, meaning conditions are likely within 48 hours. We'll get the warning when it's within 36. And you might be wondering, well, why haven't we seen any in the first coast yet? And very likely, since our impacts will be Wednesday evening, 48 hours from then would be sometime tonight. So we'll probably see those watches issued to some degree, whether it's tropical storm or hurricane watches issued for counties around the first coast, thinking perhaps Putnam County, Flagler County, St. Johns counties, as well as portions of Duval. So we'll see that a little bit later on. So here is your county by county answer if you have a question about that. I mentioned Putnam and Flagler, since it's the most southern of our counties, closest to the center line that could be cutting across I-4. We're talking about sustained winds at 60 and up, gusts of 75 and up, and that would be hurricane force gusts. So that means power outages. When you get those 60 mile an hour and up, then we start dealing with power outages and pretty widespread power outages as well. Rainfall 6 to 12 inches. So that's localized street flooding. We already have had a lot of rain recently. So with ditches and retention ponds full, we're going to deal with some locally heavy flooding there. All right, St. Johns County. So I'm looking at St. Augustine. I'm thinking about the Matanzas River, Bayfront, and all of that along the Avenida Menendez. The flooding that we typically see and have seen in hurricanes past, probably very likely as we get a surge of 4 to 6 under this current track. So watch those gusts of 75 and up. That'll have an impact on bridges, Davis Shores, etc. along St. Augustine. Yeah, got a question. This is Andy.
Hello, Andy here. Lauren wants to know, the winds during Helene were pretty intense in our area in Duval at St. John's Bluff. I thought it said St. John's County. An area on St. John's Bluff north near the river. Will these winds be similar?
Very similar. I think we're going to get, and as we look at Duval, in fact, right now, perfect timing for the question. So St. John's Bluff, getting near that river, thinking like maybe that's the Fort Caroline area. You get up close to St. John's River. Your worst conditions are going to be Wednesday night, overnight as mentioned, into early Thursday morning. A surge of 2 to 4. So if you are susceptible to higher than normal tides and the tidal flooding, this would include downtown Jacksonville as well, Hogan's Creek, McCoy Creek, and then all the way down through Clay County into Black Creek. So localized flooding even into homes and businesses that have seen this before with the higher than normal tides. But we could have gusts of 60 plus here across Duval County, and that would be Helene adjacent. Although at Mayport we had with Helene, we did have an 80 mile an hour gust. So we'll see if we kind of get to that, and that would be very close to where this person was asking about. So I appreciate the question. Lauren, zooming up to Nassau, Glenn, Camden counties. All right, surge 1 to 2 feet. We're getting a little bit on the northern reaches of this, right? Especially up in Glenn County. But when you're still dealing with gusts of 55 and up, you're still thinking about power outages. Columbia, Baker, Bradford, Union, we're on the western and northern edges of this. So I'm going to put you and lump you kind of in with inland southeast Georgia, where there are still power outages from Helene. So certainly could have the potential for that, but this will not, for those inland areas, southeast Georgia and Columbia County, will not be a repeat of Helene. So I'll wrap it with the 7-day. Andy, what are we seeing on the internet?
We have
any more?
I know you don't like comparing storms, but someone said, Anita asked, hearing we should expect a storm like Irma. Is this correct?
Irma, okay, so here's why that comparison is being drawn, and it's a good question. So with Irma, the week ahead of Irma, we had a pretty good nor'easter. Blowing a lot of wind inland. When we get those northeast winds, of course, that feeds water into the inlets. So St. John's River inlet that heads out the Mayport jetties, of course, feeding St. John's River into downtown. Matanzas inlet there at St. Augustine, feeding a lot of river water into town. So what that does on incoming tides pushes even more water in. On outgoing tides, it doesn't allow much water to come out. So you get this stacking up issue. So when you couple that with something like Irma, which kind of came right up the gut, different path, right, and a little bit longer of a period of time going up the state of Florida that we were getting these the even stronger northeast winds plus the rains. We got some historic flooding downtown Jacksonville, into businesses, into homes, through San Marco, Riverside, downtown, St. Augustine, Davis Shores, and downtown St. Augustine, and so many different areas, right? I think what this we've had those similar conditions with the nor'easter, right, lately. That's why I think we're going to get that potential 4 to 6 foot surge in some spots, especially St. Augustine, maybe up to 4 feet in downtown. But this one's going to move a little bit quicker, it looks like, at a different angle. So a little bit quicker across the peninsula. But it is something that we all need to be thinking about and prepared for, that potential for surge. So today's the day. We've got at least the 48 hours. We're not even in the watch area yet, but we will be soon. Today would be the day to take all precautions and have Irma kind of in the back of our minds.
We weren't able to get to this in the last stream, and I had someone ask again, St. Simon's Island.
Oh yeah, St. Simon's. Okay, so let's zoom on back. I had a question about St. Simon's. A friend of mine was asking on Facebook about St. Simon's. He works at Sea Island. They had a lot of trees down there. All right, I promise you, my little clicker thing is going to get me there. So we were talking about 1 to 2 foot tidal surge in Glenn County, and that would be specifically for St. Simon's. I think you guys up in St. Simon's got blasted with some really strong gusts in Helene. It'll still be possible, but as mentioned, Glenn County, especially kind of on the northern edges of seeing the worst of these impacts. So as mentioned, storm surge on St. Simon's, so 2 feet would be the top end at this point with our impacts, so that would be 2 feet on top of a normal high tide. Rainfall, that 2 to 6 inch range, and gusts 55 and up, which certainly could take down some bigger trees, tree limbs, and provide a few power outages as well. So have that power outage plan. All of us, everybody watching this, whether you're on the first coast of Florida, Southeast Georgia, or you're maybe closer to where the direct path is going to be. So certainly thoughts, prayers with everybody is in that path. But the power outage plan is going to be a good one, considering timing of this being overnight and being pitch black dark. Andy.
I mean, it's 11:55.
It is. Oh, I got to do the news show.
Yeah, got to do the
news show. The news show's in 5 minutes, so come to that as well. We'll have all the latest numbers. But I appreciate you hanging out with us here online. We'll be doing these early and often with my superstars in the digital department. Andy and Malcolm. Is Malcolm here?
He is back here.
I didn't hear Malcolm once. All right, we'll be shouting them out throughout. All right, have a great day, everybody.